Hey lads, and welcome back to another NRL Fantasy Fanatics YouTube video. Today we've got our second team reveal, just a few weeks out from season commencing. I'm joined as always by Will. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. First up, we've got your team, and there's a few interesting picks in there, a few interesting picks for me. I'm sure you'd be able to explain them. But we'll kick it off with the hooker spot. We've got Peter Mamazoulis, which is pretty common. A lot of people have him if we see here. 41% owned, so you're not alone on that one. And I also have him in my starting hooker, so that's pretty normal. Mids, Terrell May, also very normal. Isaiah Yeo, great. And Corey Horsburgh, also pretty solid, vice captain. You just hope that Corey either gets the eight spot, 8 or 10, or the 13 spot, which, I don't think he will, but you're confident, or not confident, but you're sure he will. So what do you think about Corey?
Yeah, I definitely think he should, from what I'm hearing. Ricky Stewart came out and said he's in the best physical shape he's ever been, and thinks he'll play Origin this year, which all was positive signs. Even if he's off the bench, I could still expect 50 minutes from him. So, yeah, I'll still look at him, but I'm very interested in Corey, and I think he's done it before at 13, and if he can do it again, I'm all over him.
Yeah, we were talking about it last night that where he's got 50 points off. I mean, when he gets 50 minutes off the bench, he's only don't had that 4 times, but when he does do it, he averages about 52. So if he can average 52, he's close to a must-have. But he just needs the minutes, and hopefully he gets the starting role, which would be ideal. Edges, Isaiah Papali'i, yeah, I've got him as well. 17.3% owned. I'm I'm getting less and less keen on him just because
Um,
I don't know how secure his minutes will be. Do you know anything further into that? Do you think he'll get 80 or 60? That's
Well,
what I'm
I
concerned
think
about.
he could honestly come off the bench from what I've seen and predicted team list and all that.
Hmm.
I'm very tempted to kind of go with a move Nat Butcher into a starting edge role and then go for Cameron Munster instead, who's someone I don't have. Because I just don't know if we can really back Papali'i. I think he's playing on a much better side with the best halfback probably ever to play the game here. But if he's playing through the middle, I don't like it, and off the bench I also don't like it. So I think he has to start, and there has to be no edge on that. There has to be no edge on that bench for him for me to select him.
Well, I think they'll have Liam Henry and Scott Sorensen on the bench, which both aren't great for Isaiah Papali'i, two edges there. But I just feel like they can't sign a player like Isaiah Papali'i, an absolute beast, and just leave him on the bench. Like I'd feel like they want to play their best edges in Liam Martin and Isaiah straight away, which I really hope they do, but it's a wait and see. You just got to wait closer to team lists. Um, like you did say, you do have Nat Butcher on your bench, which if you're not too confident on Isaiah, you just chop and change him. But your second edge, Matty Nicholson, another player who I'm watching. I'm not too keen on at the moment just because I don't think he'll start over Hosking. I think he'll play 17. And normally, like, you're not taking much of a risk at 450k, but I just want him to start for me to justify having him. So, what are your thoughts on Matty?
Yeah, if he's on the bench, I'm not going anywhere near him. But I am hearing reports that Hosking might be in doubt for round one. Still has the injury tick next to his name in fantasy, and that Matty Nicholson could even earn a spot over Zach. Very good player, Matty, from what I've seen, and he played very well in that trial game. I think he made 33 tackles and 70 odd meters in 43 minutes over that trial game. So, yeah, I'm all for Matty. A player I'm really interested in if he gets that spot. But if he doesn't, I will probably look to bring in a Zach Hosking. I think one of those Raiders edges, they just make 50 tackles a game, run 100 meters. Their base is just so good, and Hosking is only probably 130k cheaper.
More expensive.
Yeah, more expensive.
Um, Look, you did say that there's rumors that Hosking will be out for round one. Do you reckon if Matty Nicholson does get the spot for a week while Hosking's injured, will Hosking just come in, take his spot, and force him to the bench?
He definitely could, but if Matty has a good enough game, then you never know. Like Matty could earn that spot, and it's a risk I'm willing to take for someone of his price. He could crank out a 60 and then have a low break even for the next 2 weeks, make go up to 520 odd K, and I could just be thanks for coming, mate.
Yeah.
Bank the 70K, and
He's a
then
bit
go down.
similar to when
But if
sorry, you
Matty
go.
starts first week, you get to 60. Starts second week when Hoskins coming back, gets another 60, and then Hoskin goes down, Matty goes up, and if Hoskin comes back and that's
Yeah.
starting on up, I can just go Matty straight to Hoskin.
Yeah, you're right. Um, Bit of a wait and see for me. I reckon I'll probably ease him in, get him into the build him up into chemistry and gel with the team. But halves, you've got Nathan Cleary and Luke Metcalf. I've got the exact same. Not much to be said about Cleary, obviously. 880K for a player, one of the best halves we've ever seen. Luke Metcalf, I really liked him in the trial game, as we explained last night. Took control of the Warriors' attack, and at 441K for a bloke who might honestly play seven over Tamari Martin and on goal kicking, you can't really ask for more. So I've gone Metcalf over Munster, and it seems you have two, which is good.
Yeah,
Anything you want to add there?
I I only went Metcalf over Munster a couple of days ago after that trial performance. I think the round two buy for Munster is a little bit off for me. I also do want to see him for a week because I don't think he can go too much out. And then by round three, if Metcalf's not cutting it, I can probably trade Metcalf to Munster. But yeah, I'm just hoping that Metcalf I think will do well. Got the goal kicking there. Will be the main uh runner, kicker, and has a good running game on him. We all know what Munster can
Mm.
do, but Metcalf playing those two rounds probably if it gets you 40 points around, that's 80 points compared to Munster's probably 50 there. And yeah, I just want to see what Munster can do, see if he's still as agile as he was before getting those hip surgery.
Yeah, like you said, you can start with Metcalf and then easily move them on to Munster if you have the cash in the bank in round three after his bye. So centers, you've got Jack Bird, who in our eyes is a no-brainer, and Savelio Tamale, who I'm also very keen on, also in my team. I don't think there's too much to be said about him. You could argue that your centers are lacking, but then you got Beau Fermor coming off the bench, so your centers aren't actually lacking. Jack Bird. He could either be your starting edge spot, starting center, or bench spot. Like it doesn't really matter. I think he'll pump out 40 to 45 points. That's 362K, which is great. Tamale has been tipped, excuse me, to get the number two spot for the Raiders, which if he can, 300K for a winger of his quality. And if you don't know what his quality is, just search up his New South Wales Cup stats. Yeah, if he can, he should get that wing spot, and if he does, he should be in everyone's team. He can make lots of money. So I think we'll move on from the centers there. You've
The only
basically got,
The only thing
so
about
sorry.
Damali is he is coming in for Albert Hopewadi, who was out for the first round with his child's birth. So there is a chance that he doesn't play round two, but I think you take a risk. He will get wing fullback
Mm.
centre duel, and if he plays well enough, he could force Albert out, who isn't an amazing winger. He could force Xavier Savage out, or he could force the other centre out. And we all know what he can do. He's a highly scouted by Ricky Stewart too. So again, that's a risk I'm willing to take in this team early on.
Yeah. Um, he's got one chance to impress in round one, and if he does, I can honestly see him keeping that spot and then having maybe Hopewadi drop to reserves or even the bench. But yeah, Tamale and Bird, I'm keen on them. So we'll move on. Wing fullbacks, you've got Latrell, Mark, and Isaiah Longy, which I have all three of these players, and I think a lot of people do. Mark 23% owned, and Longy, I think he's almost 50% owned. Um, you've got the gun in Latrell Mitchell, who we did a video on yesterday saying if you had to pick a gun, I'd go Latrell, and big fan of him. Um, Explain your other two selections, because you could argue your wing fullbacks are lacking just a little.
Yeah, so I really like. Well, I've spoken about him a lot. Oh, I'm sick about speaking about him, but yeah, he 350K. He's come from a Panthers outfit, which I mean, anyone coming from Panthers is going to be a well drilled player. The one game he played, he scored 43, pretty much all in base. We know that those Panthers fullback are workhorses. Like, look how Dylan Edwards gets all his points and very elusive player. I think a starting fullback at 350K in what should be a good Eels outfit is just a no-brainer. And along with
Mm.
Mark, coming from rugby union, we all know what rugby union players can do in NRL. And we all seen him play in the rugby union setup, and he is an absolute freak. We saw the one game he
Mm.
played 43. I think he's going to get centre dual two, which for me I like even more because again, centres is such a tough position, and if I can move him in and out of the wing fullback centre position, I really like. But again, I feel a lot more upside with Mark than a lot more downside with Mark on a good Roosters team again. And for this wing fullback, I've kind of gone with three that I think will all be in the top eight. I think Bunnies break top eight, Roosters break top eight, and Eels break top eight. So that's something I'm kind of looking for. And yeah, I think Mark has a lot of money to be made early on.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Except I don't think the Eels will make top eight, but we'll see. Um, Latrell, we've talked about him so many times in this preseason, looking as fit as a fiddle. He's looking the best I've ever seen him. Under Wayne Bennett, as well as you all should know, he historically scores much better when Wayne Bennett is the coach. So that's why I imagine you've selected him. Um, Moving on to your bench, your main team, honestly, is very good. I'm a big fan. Moving on to your bench, Nat Butcher have not, I think he's under 1%, no, 1.1% owned. I haven't seen him in anyone's team. So what's your reasoning for that pick?
Well, I was just playing around with it, watched a couple of highlights in class, and yeah, I just saw Nat Butcher popped up, and I was like looking at his fantasy stats, and last year he averaged 55.6 when playing over 60 minutes at starting second row. And I think the year before he averaged 53.8. And I was like, that's a lot of points of value with a dual position. And we all know what Nat can do as a player. So if he can get that starting edge spot, which I think he will, because I don't think Wong's getting it over him, and I don't think his brother's getting it over him. So that means he'll probably have to play 60 to 80 minutes. But with both those guys on the bench, he could also go to the hybrid role, as we know he can play in the middle for 20 or 30 minutes. So I think that's just good base for him. But I see Nat's floor as an average of 50, which still makes him money, but could succeed above an average of 60, especially in the Roosters team where edges have historically done so well for them in Angus Crichton. And I mean, a Nat with a 55.6 average last year, it's a no-brainer taking him at this price with that handy dual position too.
Yeah. Um, Gee, if the Roosters can line up with Nat Butcher and Angus Crichton in their edges, then they're going to be scary. Yeah, I reckon it'll be Lindsay Collins 10, Angus Crichton 11, Butcher 12, and then Victor Radley 13, with White, Sua Wong, and Egan Butcher on the bench. That's my only concern. You've got three edges who are likely going to
But
play on the bench
I think
in White, Wong, and Egan Butcher. What do you
White will
think
go
about that?
bench. Radley's not playing 80, and Spencer Lender's only playing 40. So one of them will go prop, or both of them will go prop because Collins is playing probably 55. So you got Wong probably at lock because he's played there before for Radley. Then you've got White will probably be the big minute forward off that bench for 40. And then who's the other one? Egan will probably come on 30 and maybe stint him for 10 on the edge. So he's still 70 minutes. I mean, that was filtered by over 60 minutes, which means there's 70-minute games in there for Nat, and he can still average 54.
Mm. Yeah, I just think he might get some minute cuts with those three edges, but I can't see them putting Egan Butcher on the bench to play just 10 minutes for a player of that quality.
Well, I think
But
30 a prop and
look,
10 at edge if he was to.
yeah, true. Yeah, you are right. He does have the mid edge duel, so he's versatile, can play through a middle or the edge, obviously. So maybe they'll do that to him. Next pick, Aaron Clark, one who I'm not keen on, as just because I think he'll play 15, and he's got a lot of people surrounding him that are going to take his minutes, like Walker, Lussick, and the likes of those. But look, 482k hooker mid dual, very handy dual position. Why have you picked Aaron in your team?
Well, I think he was highly scouted by the Warriors and very good player when playing at 13 for the Titans. His PPM's insane. Played really well in the trial game, and if he does get that 13 spot, I think I'll be locking him up as my starting hooker. Dylan Walker is very injury prone too, which is one that even if Aaron comes off the bench, still expect 45 minutes. And it takes one injury from Walker, which we know will happen with him, unfortunately to say it, or an injury from Wade Egan in game for him to come to hooker and he gets
Mm.
big minutes there. But yeah, I think Aaron, big body, I think they kind of what they need at 13 because I think he's a better ball player than Dylan Walker, having played hooker. And I think that just big body, better defensive player than Dylan Walker. I'm keen on Aaron just because he looks really good in the trials, and I think we all know what he can really do.
Yeah, fair enough. For me, it's just probably it'll be TLT Tuesday on the first week of fantasy for me to decide to get him. If he's in the starting role, then he's a must-have almost 482k. We'll move on. Royce Hunt, pretty obvious one. I think he's 30 something percent. Yeah, 33% owned. 275k. He's on my emergencies at the moment. I just don't trust him off coming off the bench as he probably won't start and he's not really a minutes kind of guy just because of his size. Um he's on my emergencies and I'll probably wait and see how he goes. I just feel it's a bit risky having him on your interchange. Why have you got him there?
No, I'm all for him. I think that he is starting for the Maui All Stars this weekend at 8, which is good signs. Means that they think he's fit enough to play. If he plays 40 minutes there, he's going to be in my bench team all year long because I think that's good signs.
Yeah,
Clem are getting old.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
There is quickly there is
Like we
one player
did,
I'm interested in. Instead of going Nat Butcher, is could get a dual edge here is Alex Seyfarth with the middle edge duel because we all know what he can do on the edge too when he plays there. I think he has an average of about 50 and a 470 odd K. He's really underpriced. So it's between Nat or Alex Seyfarth for me.
yeah. You could be right onto something there. Next player, Bo Fermor, one who you're very hot on, even with his round one bye. Edge center duel. I've personally gone Dylan Lucas over Bo, but you seem to be very keen on him, so just explain that.
Yeah, well, for Bo, I think I need the starting centre. I've played centre roulette too many times the last couple of years, and I think that I really need to lock it down. Bo had an average of 49.8 in 2024, but that was started with a 28, a 36, and a 35 early on before barely getting one score under 42. I think Bo
Yeah,
at second row is really good. You saw what he did in 2022, an average of 51.8, and for me, Bo. I mean, a break even at 49. I don't think he's going to make much money. He definitely could get up to 700, 750k, but he's a very good player. One that I can just stick in my centers for the whole season and we'll just tick along, make 35 tackles, make 100 meters, get a couple tackle busts, maybe get a try or two. And I think he's just an easy watch for me and one that, yeah, my centers are stacked. And I think the other option I would only go with is a Dylan Lucas, but I think his spot's more. Um, I think he's both thermal spots more locked up than Lucas.
yeah. Um, I do agree with what you said there. I'm just taking Lucas because he doesn't have a buy, but you can use that buy for a good looping option, which is always handy to have. Your four emergencies, you've got Sanders Smith, who is an absolute lock, so we'll move on from him pretty quickly. Tom Amone, who he's an interesting one. Like, I don't think we've seen in the last few years with Jamin Salmon and Sam Hughes coming off the bench or even starting. The Bulldogs never give their mids or props a run. Like they just stay on for 20 minutes and then come off and barely get another go. That's my only problem. I just don't think you'll get the minutes you want. I could honestly see him maxing out at about 30 to 35 minutes, and I'm not too keen on that. It's my only problem. What do you think about Tom?
He could definitely be downgraded to Robert Toya, one starting in the centers this week over Billy Smith. I don't know if Billy's injured or not, but yeah, Tom he's on the bench this week for the preseason trials. It'll be one that if he starts, I'll go off him. If he's bench, I'll look at him, see if I can find a better cash cow. If not, hope and pray like Sam Hughes happened. He started off the bench, got 25 minutes, forced his way into that starting lineup, and ended up getting up to 450k, which I think for Tom, if he's on the bench, it'll be a slow burn cash cow.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, my issue is he's on the bench for his next trial game. That indicates to me that he's going to be on the bench in the main season. Because if he's not in the starting team in a weakened Bulldog side, I can't see him scratching the surface in the season. But we'll move on. Um, yeah, Robert Derby. I'm so keen on him, very keen. Um, 250k. The Cowboys have labeled him as their next prodigy, or whatever you want to call it. Um, I'm so keen on him. He's in my team as well. 250K. Hopefully, he can get that starting spot. Um, there's talk of him playing seven instead of Clifford, correct?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. They've labelled him as the next Jonathan Thurston, which is absolute. You can't get better praise than that. So I think you just lock him in your team and wait till further notice, but there's no harm in having him at the moment. Tajanan, I think there's a bit of bias there since we know him personally. Are you just using him as a week in, week out looping option, as he definitely won't be playing?
Nah, he's just a spot filler for me. I as of right now, I know Taj personally, and yeah. But going back to Derby quickly, he is the only thing that worries me is he is on the bench this week, or he's not on the bench. He is starting at 2 this weekend, not at 7. So if he was starting at
Okay.
7, I'd be keen, but at 2, still keen at 250K, but I prefer him at 7.
He will get the dual position as well,
Yeah.
which if you can get as many dual positions as you can, then you're doing pretty well. 250K, not a lot of risk. Yeah, so that's about it for your team. Looks pretty good to me. I can't really advise you on any changes since we do this together, but yeah, we'll move on to my team. Uh, what are your first thoughts on this, Will? Actually, no, hang on. We'll just go through positions. So we both have Peter Mamazoulis. Not too much to say. Starting in the trial game this week, which is a great sign. Let's see what he can do, but honestly, like we said, he's in about 40% of teams. I'm not probably not going to be changing him. My three mids, I've stacked my mids up. I've gone Yo, May, and Connor Watson. Connor Watson's someone I'm very, very keen on, as he'll get hooker mid dual, as he'll most likely play nine in season. Terrell May must have, and Isaiah Yo also a must have if you want a gun. So, what are your thoughts on Connor Watson?
Yeah, I had Connor in my team all the way through until a couple of days ago. I got rid of him for his face. I got rid of him for
That butcher.
Metcalf. But
Oh, Metcalf.
just to free up cash for bringing Aaron Clark and then to be able to bring in Nat Butcher. But yeah, one I'm very keen on. And if he gets hooker duel, I think you can probably start him at hooker and just go with him the whole season at hooker. But we all know what he can do through the middle. We all know what he can do through hooker. I think he's close to a no-brainer. Underpriced. I would still look at maybe going Corey Horse over him if Horse was to start. Because Horse is 110K cheaper, and that season that Horse had absolute breakout season. I think he got to 750K, and yeah, but I think both are very good options, and I know I'm going with the Horse over Connor just because he's cheaper.
I'm just going with Connor just because his spot is so solidified and it always will be. And there's a bit of skeptic. I'm a bit skeptic on the horse just because he might either come off the bench or hopefully he starts, but he probably come off the bench. Two edges. I've got Dylan Lucas and Isaiah Papali'i, which are two very strong edges. Isaiah Papali'i you have as well, who we've already explained. Dylan Lucas is one I'm obviously very interested in. 7.5% owned, projected 48 in round one. I could honestly see it being more than that against the Tigers. Honestly, I could see that being
Good side.
55. Um, Edge center duel, similar to Bo Fermor. I've just gone him just because um he's a big unit and look, it's a toss up between Bo and Lucas, but for me, just because he doesn't have a round one bye, that's why I've gone him. But what are your thoughts on Dylan?
Yeah, Dylan, I think I had him last year. I like him, very good player, but there's two reasons I don't like Dylan is his versatility. Like you saw last year, he was probably their best edge forward, and he moved from edge to center, and then center back to the bench, and then bench back to center. And it's just I think Tyson Frizzell is such a highly scouted player and has been so good for so many years, along with Ty Pierce Paul, who played very well last year. That he could be off the bench again, or he could start for 2 weeks and go off the bench. So those are my only really concerns with Dylan Lucas. If I was in your situation, I'm using Bo as my center, but if I was using him as my edge, I would look at a John Bateman over both of them.
Yeah, fair enough. He is very cheap, about 595K, I think. Should slot right into that Cowboys team, and everyone knows what he can do when he's in his form. So that is a good option. I could do that and free up the
This
170.
is
No,
what I would do if I had your
what's
team
that?
here. I would. move Dylan down to my centers, and then pick up John Bateman instead of Bradman Best. But we'll get to Bradman when we get to him.
I'm so hot on Bradman, so I probably won't do that. Halves, we got Nathan Cleary, Luke Metcalf. We've already explained that in the last team, in Will's team, so we'll probably move on from that. Jack Bird, who you also have, we've explained him, very hot on him. And Bradman Best, who I think is a great pod, 5.6% owned, projected 48 against the Tigers. Like Lucas, I could see that being 50, 52, 53. Um, like we saw last year, we explained this yesterday. He had a slow start, but he finished the season with two games, with one game over 100 and one game at 99, which is absolutely amazing. He's a tackle busting machine, runs the ball very hard, and I honestly think he's going to have a more consistent year, just hovering around that 50-point average. I'm so hot on him, and I can't be told otherwise. So, what are you going to tell me about Bradman, mate?
One that I'm not interested in at all, just too inconsistent for me in that center spot. Like, he'll get you a 35, then he'll get you a 70. He can go, he's a player that goes on streaks, so he'll go 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 60, 60, 70, 60, and you'll just be like, well, is this the start of the season? And again, he's playing center. I am a big believer that you don't put centers in centers.
Um, yeah, I don't agree with that. Playing next to Kalen Ponga really does bring the best out of someone, the best. Um, I think, like I said before, he'll be more consistent. And when you have two games last year at around 100 points, that does loom in the back of your head, and it's definitely looming in mine. So that's why I've selected him, just on the fact that he can score 100 points, and he's done it twice in the last year. So that's why I've gone with best. And I think if you want a mid-tier center, if you watched our video, we labeled him as our best mid-range center. So if you want one, he's your man. Moving on, wing fullbacks. I've gone same as you. Wing fullback Latrell Mitchell, Iongi or Longy, and Blaze Talangi, who I heard you were in love, falling out of love with, but I'm still keeping him just because he's in the Penrith lineup playing six instead of Luai, who's moved on. But anyone who plays around Cleary, as we said, or anyone who plays for Penrith is going to score more points. But what are your thoughts on Blaze?
Well, first of all, I'm hearing reports that Jack Cole is the favourite to get the sixth
Yeah.
jersey to start with. Second of all, I don't love Blaze anymore. We'll get the dual position, but don't have a lot of value whenever I see too many missed tackles. Like you see it from all these players, they can get attacking stat after attacking stat, but just too many missed tackles. I would be 35 averages where I'd have him around, and I think, I mean, it's just he's such a small body. You saw him at 5'8" compared to fullback. At fullback, he scores better because he doesn't miss as many tackles. And like, okay, he can score a double, but still misses tackles. I'm going to keep saying it. Keep saying it. Like, you have an edge running at him. Like, if you get Ola Kawatu, for example, running at Blaze Talangi, wish him good luck. I would just close you out.
I still think there's heaps of, not heaps, but there's definitely value.
And
As
he
I don't
has
know if
no
you just
base
saw that.
stats. Like, he's not conversion kicking. He's not going to do in play kicking. So he has to rely all on attacking stats.
Uh, just that's when he was on the Eels. He's on Penrith now. Like, think about it. Well, the
But
best team in the
what
last 4 years.
what base
He's
stats
not
is he
going to
going to get?
do him any harm.
What base stats
He's
is he
going to.
going to get? Because he's not going to go. He's not going to kick. Cleary kicks over 600 meters a game. He
He
will
will
probably
kick. He's
run.
not like he's not going to kick the ball whatsoever. He's going to kick the ball.
He okay. He might get 3 points from kicking the ball. He's going to run 80 meters. That's 9 points. He's going to make 15 tackles. That's 24 points. He's going to miss at least five. That's 14 points. You can take 14 points if you want, and then take 50 the next game when he scores a try. But just for
I'm
me,
just I'm just
I'm
saying
completely
a
tired.
450K six playing for Penrith. I'm not turning that down. Um, and like I
I think
just put
that's
in,
stupid.
if he gets 45, if he averages 45, he'll make you 60K cash in the first 3 weeks, which I can see him averaging 45. I'm a
That's
big fan of him.
I really disagree.
But like you said, if Jack Cole does end up snagging that starting spot, he's obviously not going to be in my team. So we'll move on. Pavelio Tamale, yeah, in your team as well. He's made my bench spot. We've spoken about him so much. I'm very keen on him. search up his New South Wales Cup stats. He's a beast, so he's taken my not first bench spot. Second bench spot you didn't have in your team, Tyrone Munro, who should play wing for the Bunnies, which is great. Very low break even, as you can see there. And all he needs is a try to score about 40, 45 points. I'm a big fan of him. See how much money he can just make. Oh, that thing needs to go away. Um, 20, 32, and 37K if he averages 40. That'll get him to 390K in 3 weeks. The upside is huge on Tyrone, and I do expect the Bunnies to be a lot better this year. So are you keen on Munro at all?
I was, but I just think base stats not there. Gonna need tries. Is Alex Johnson still playing too?
I don't think so. He retired.
So yeah, he's going to go on
Um,
Johnson's side, which is where they score most of their tries. But I think Johnson was never really a fantasy option. He'd go 6 with no tries and 60 with 3 tries. I've never been big on picking wingers, but I mean, not much to lose on Tyrone. Could get a few
yeah,
cheap tries, but we've seen he has gone low when he hasn't scored tries in the past.
yeah. You do. You say that he doesn't have many base stats. Not many wingers do have base stats, but wingers rely on tries. And this bloke replacing Johnston will get tries. They favour his side. He's going to get tries. And at 300K, if he has a few off weeks, yeah, he'll maybe lose 10K, but all it takes is one 50 to 60 point game to get his break even back to zero. So that's why I've got him and massive, massive fan in the new and improved bunnies. Moving on, Mark. Noah Quanatawaze. I think I got that right. Um, we spoke about him earlier. Should play centers coming from rugby union, absolute tackle busting machine. Um, he's in both our teams, 350K, can't really go wrong. So we'll move on. Blake Moses, someone you didn't have because you had Aaron Clark. Um, should get the 9 spot, and with Billy Walters probably off the bench or Corey Pakes, I'd probably say Billy Walters. But 337K for a hooker who should get 50 to 60 minutes, maybe 50. Big fan. Why didn't you not have Blake, or have you had Blake in the past?
I think he's only going to average around 30. I think 45 to 50 minutes with Billy off the bench or Corey Pakes off the bench. He might not even start. I am hearing that Madge really likes Corey Pakes. Uh, don't know much about him, and I've just got no interest in him. If there's a no hooker on the bench, I'll go for him. But with a hooker on the bench, knowing that Billy never really got big minutes and was never really fantasy relevant, I just can't go near him.
Mm. I can see him making that money I've got on screen, getting up to 413K if he averages 40 in the first three. Um, I think it'll be Billy Walters off the bench. And I think Moser they'll probably split it 50-30. And if Moser can get 50 minutes, can see him averaging 35 to 40 points. He tackles pretty efficiently, which I love. And that's why he's my secondary hooker. We'll just go quickly through these emergencies. I've got Jackson Purdue, who you didn't have. Hopefully he can get a spot in the halves, but if not, he should hopefully play centers. 250K, can't really go too wrong with your cheapies if they're going to start. So, also got Robert Derby, who you've got, getting more and more keen on him as he goes along. 2.2% owned, which is subject to change. Round one break even of 19. Hopefully, he can get the 7 spot over Clifford, and if not, hopefully he can play two. I just don't see him playing two with the Cowboys wingers, but hopefully he can get the spot. Sandon Smith and Royce Hunt, two locks that we've talked about before. Yeah, they're just sitting in my emergencies at the moment as I haven't fully backed them in. I'm not too confident on them. Probably need a week or two to see how they go. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my team and I'm happy with yours as well. But obviously, it's going to change about 1,000 times before fantasy actually starts. Um, yeah, any final comments, Will, before we wrap up?
Now I'm pretty happy with my team, and I think it'll change much. And yeah, your team's looking good. I think there's a couple
Mm,
interesting picks in there, and let's just hope they can do well for you.
yeah, you just got to have a few interesting picks if you want to rank high. That's just how it goes. But that's all we got for you tonight, fellas. Our 2 or 3 week out team reveals. Let us know if you have any comments or DM us on Instagram if you want us to rate your teams. And yeah, so any final comments, Will, before we close off?
Nah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See ya.